Today's episode is brought to you by the book Profit from Your Podcast, Proving Strategies to Turn Listeners into a Livelihood. Available at Amazon or the website Profit from Your Podcast. As I record this, Apple Podcast has put out their subscription plan. And of course, being it was one of the first, there's still a lot of hype about Patreon. Well, today, if you want to have premium content or basically an audio membership site, there's another option you might want to check out. Welcome to Podcasting Resources, helping you find the tools to enable you to impact your audience faster, smarter, and deeper. Our website, podcastingresources.com. Hey, I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, where I help you plan, launch, and grow your podcast, and also author the book Profit from Your Podcast. And today we're going to talk a little podcast monetization. We are all familiar with Patreon. That's been around for quite some time. And as I record this, Apple Podcast has launched their subscription model. And I wanted to let you know there is another option. Actually, there are more options than these three. There are many of these out here. But today we're going to talk about Supercast. And if you're wondering, like, why would I use Supercast when everybody's using Patreon? Well, there are a couple things. Keep in mind, number one, no matter who you're using, it really doesn't matter if it's Patreon or whoever, only 3 to 5% of your audience is going to sign up, depending on how engaged your audience is. But I know we all think, well, if I could get 50%, that is like impossible. But if you could get 3 to 5%, like 10% is insane. So keep that in mind, just so we all have realistic expectations. But you want to make it easy. And that's one of the things that Apple is kind of touting. But with Patreon, if we compare Patreon to Supercast, it takes 10 clicks for someone to sign up. And that provides them many times to, well, change their mind. So that's something you want to think about. Also, when it comes to cost, Patreon takes 5 to 12% of your monthly revenue, plus processing fees, plus payout fees, plus conversion fees. And that can get a little costly. And so, according to Supercast's website, they want you to keep as much money as possible. So what they do is they charge you 59 cents per, in USD, I should say here. These are US dollars, 59 cents per connected user. And that's per month, plus the Stripe fees, which are typically around 3%. And with that, you have immediate access to your money through your Stripe account. So the cool thing is, number one, they're paying you almost instantly. And depending on what you're charging, it could actually be cheaper. But realize there are a lot of fees associated with Patreon. The other one is that I really like is with Patreon, you either A, send them to the Patreon app where they see all the people that they are patrons of, or I am very, very loyal to the brand Overcast. And most people that I know of that are, shall we call them power users, power listeners of podcasts, they kind of have whatever app they're using. And I know you might be thinking, oh, but Dave, you can send people a private individual link to an RSS feed from Patreon. And that is true, to where they have to then copy and know how to manually subscribe to a podcast. And that can be a little challenging if your audience isn't that technical. The cool thing about Supercast is you basically click a link and it looks at your phone and figures out what apps are on that phone and says, hey, would you like to listen to this in Overcast? And I go, yes, please. It's really, really easy. The other big difference between Patreon and Supercast is you can have bundles. So if you have multiple shows, you can actually combine those in Supercast so that everybody gets a bundle. That is different than Patreon. The other nice thing about Supercast is I mentioned that it will allow you, it looks at your phone. So with things like Apple Podcast, which has launched their subscription, well, that's great as long as you're not on an Android phone, because right now there is no Android version of Apple Podcasts. So that's going to be a bit of a bummer for anybody that subscribes. And realize 75 to 80% of Europe is on an Android phone. Also, you won't own your customers. And this is the deal breaker for me with the Apple subscriptions. You're not going to have access to their email address. So really, you're the product and your subscribers are Apple's, they're really Apple's customers. You don't get access to that. Oh, and you're going to be giving away 30% of the fee. It's just crazy. You also aren't going to be able to include any non-audio benefits like a newsletter or merch or community. And that's the other thing I like about Supercast is they do integrate with a tool called Zapier. And so you could say, hey, this is how I'm currently using this. When somebody signs up at the School of Podcasting, they're automatically added to Supercast where they get an email that says, hey, click here to subscribe to this premium content. It's really pretty slick. So that's another great thing. You get the ability to integrate with other devices and other programs. And that is also Zapier integration is also included with Patreon. We've talked in the past about Podpage. Podpage integrates with Supercast. So you can actually, on your website on Podpage, which just came out with a whole bunch of new features, check that out. And you can have your free stuff on your Podpage, but automatically have buttons on your website to send people to Supercast. One last point, and this is important. Supercast provides statistics on what people are listening to in your premium. So you can see, hey, I sent this out to 30 premium members and only 17 of them listened to it. So you can see that, and you can see who's listening and who is not. So it really gives you insights that you're not definitely going to get from Apple or Patreon. In just a second, I'm going to give you insights into what type of person and what they're looking for in a membership site. But I just want to remind you, if you go to podcastingresources.com/supercast, it's free to sign up. They only make money when you make money. And since we're talking premium content, I thought I would throw this in. This is from my book, Profit from Your Podcast. There are 3 types of people that will support you in this particular strategy. Number 1 is the person that just wants you to just do your art, man. I just want you to be able to do your art and escape I want to support you. So there's that person. The second motivation is the person that wants more of you. I want more content from you. So this is the person that will sign up for the bonus content. And then the third person that is motivated is the person that wants to help shape the content. An example of this, kind of an above and beyond, is Jonathan Oakes over at Trivia Warfare. He actually has a membership area where if you donate enough every month, you can actually be on the show. Another person has a Lord of the Rings show, and every quarter they sit down to talk about what future topics they're going to talk about. And if you're at a certain level, if you're a member, you can then actually help decide what content is going to be covered in the next quarter. These are all membership levels. And these are things, if you notice, these are things that people want. So when you go, hey, if you become a member of my premium content, I'll get a new microphone. That benefits you. And yes, indirectly it benefits the listener, but you want to figure out what your audience wants and then give that to them. For more information on that type of information, along with 72 other interviews with podcasters who are making money, check out the book, Profit from Your Podcast. You can find it at, you guessed it, profitfromyourpodcast.com. It's available on Amazon.com. And if you know somebody who needs this tool, feel free to go to your phone and click on the share button. And before we leave, I want to tell you about my favorite podcasting resource, and that is the School of Podcasting, where you get to plan, launch, and grow your podcast. Use the coupon code LISTENER, that's LISTENER, when you sign up for either a monthly or yearly subscription. The website again, schoolofpodcasting.com, coupon code LISTENER.